Chain smoke your problems away. Smoke Pit Fairy Tales Part 4, Chapter 37, Burn Through the Ditches. Thatch and Chuck pulled a set of heavy lead doors apart. Inside stood columns of canister-filled racks. They stepped in to examine them. The containers were about the size of a loaf of bread. The center was a glass tube filled with a strange glowing blue liquid, encased inside of another glass tube filled with water. Holding the tubes together was a square metal frame that clutched the glass at the ends and in the middle.
This is Wiedemann?
Chuck asked.
Yeah.
Thatch answered. Having found the weapons, Thatch walked back out to the main room. Lighthouse was standing in front of a control module that looked like an overbuilt computer from the last century. Thatch looked at the glowing lights and spinning spools over the top, wondering why the Russians would build a machine that looked like that. A few of the glowing glass tubes were inserted into the side of the machine. A pair of keys had been inserted and turned. Thatch spoke to Lighthouse.
Are you sure this is armed?
I'm sure, Sergeant. I don't know if it's been fired yet or activated or whatever, but it's fucking armed.
Lighthouse replied. Thatch looked at the tubes radiating their pale blue light.
These seem to be full still. I'd think with as long as the Russians have been out of here, these things would be empty.
Why would they arm it and not set it off?
Capulet asked.
I don't know. Maybe it's on a timer?
Thatch looked back to Lighthouse.
Is there a clock or anything on that?
Not that I can see.
Find a way to cut the power.
He looked at the electrical cables protruding from the console.
What if shutting it down is what sets it off? Maybe that's why the power's still on down here.
Thatch tried to see if there was any kind of dispensing mechanism on the machine. When he couldn't find one, he told Chuck.
Wrap this in garbage bags and duct tape it before you turn it off. Try to limit that possibility.
Chuck nodded.
Yeah.
He took in a quick breath.
Why would they put this down here, though? It doesn't seem that smart.
Who knows? Maybe this just sends the stuff to the cells, but either way, I don't want to chance it.
I'll get on it.
Chuck headed towards the stairs.
Vickers, you're with me. We're gonna go find some plastic.
Thatch walked back to Akan, who hadn't moved since seeing the deformed freaks inside of the cages. They stared at her with curiosity. She was still shaking and had started mumbling.
God damn it, God damn it, God damn it, God damn it, God damn it.
You alright?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get going back up to the roof. Are you at least good to take care of the Marines down here?
Yeah, I can do that.
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Thatch turned to head up the stairs.
Capulet, your team's coming with me.
Roger.
Capulet rallied Schneider, Thatcher, and Hans, and they headed up to the roof. They looked over the ledge towards the other side of the colony. Judging by where the fires were, the Marines had started to take more territory.
How long do you think it will take for them to get here?
Capulet asked Thatch.
At that rate?
Thatch looked at the lights. They seemed to have moved a lot further east than west.
No, it looks like they're pushing through the garrison area instead of through housing. I wouldn't say any sooner than a day.
You think they're doing that because there's more Russian resistance than anticipated?
Probably.
Thatch shrugged, wanting a second opinion.
If we hold up here, where do you think the best place to stay is? Like, if the Russians push through here, do we want to be somewhere hidden or somewhere we can defend?
Is there a place to do both?
His eyes aimlessly searched the ground as he thought.
Why not stay in the infirmary where the wounded already are? It's a couple floors up so we can see Ivan coming, and walls are thick concrete, and we'd have plenty of medical supplies and egress routes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Thatch played out a few scenarios in his head.
Get it done. Get me fire plan sketches, egress routes, and a watch list, and put me and Okan on that too.
Aye, Sergeant.
Back in the basement, Chuck and Vickers wrapped the weapons console with trash bags and duct tape. They had covered the machine with several boxes of bags and pounds of tape.
How's it going?
I don't think it'll hold, but we don't have the right stuff to make this work. It should give us a little time, though, or at least limit its dispersal.
All right.
Thatch looked over the plastic heaping mess.
We're holding up in the infirmary to wait for friendly forces to arrive. Take a few canisters of whatever's glowing in those blue tubes and get those Marines up here and start fortifying.
Got it.
The Marines spent the night in the infirmary on quarter watch. Thatch and Akan ordered the Marines to stay clothed with their boots on and their weapons within arm's reach. If something were to happen, they'd already be in a position to fight. All they'd have to do is wake up. Volgograd was in a state of perpetual night. The mirrors were facing away from the sun, and every single star in the sky could be seen. Thatch propped himself up in a corner, facing the doors which had been barricaded with beams broken off beds. Stockton came and sat beside him.
This is some shit, huh?
Thatch leaned his head back against the wall.
Yep. And things aren't getting any better. Irons, Franklin, Scott, and Martinez all have pretty bad fevers.
How bad?
Over 100. They've got chills too. I gave them something to help fight it, but that's just masking the symptoms. They're hurt and I don't know if they're gonna make it. There's plenty of meds here, but nothing I've given them is helping.
Thatch felt helpless. He hated that he was in a position where his Marines could die because they were sick.
And we can't take him anywhere. There's too many Russians on either side of our forces, and sneaking through tunnels won't do us any good because if we get caught with our pants down in a situation that tight, we're gonna get waxed.
Stockton was silent for a moment.
What do you think happened to First Sergeant Alira's and those Marines?
I have no idea.
Thatch rubbed his eyes, trying to shake off fatigue.
I hope they're all right, but we can't really worry about them unless we link back up.
He looked out the window. There was still no sign of anyone, friend or foe, coming soon. He checked his watch. His post was in a couple of hours, and he figured he should probably try to sleep. He rested his head against the wall and closed his eyes. It was a hell of a day, the longest he could remember having in years. He thought about Simoom, wondering what she was doing, hoping that she was all right. He regretted the things he said to her, but there was nothing he could do to change it. He thought about apologizing to her when he returned, if he returned. But he couldn't imagine himself being able to fight through the shame of facing her again. A surge of anger built in his body as he replayed the relationship in his mind. The adrenaline rushed through his veins, reawakening his brain. He held in a scream and forced the energy out through his fist, punching the floor. Thatch got up off the deck. His body was shaking from the overload. He told Capulet, the senior man on watch, to go to sleep, and that he'd cover both of their shifts. The morning hours came without a wink of sleep for Thatch. There still wasn't a sun, but everyone was awake. Akan took a fire team down to the galley and brought back porridge, bread, and eggs. They started a small fire in the room and cooked the meals and sterilized bedpans. They ate off whatever they could find to put the food in. The wounded ate first, then the junior Marines, then the corporals, then Thatch and Akan last. Thatch sat on a couch near the corner beside Stockton and Akan.
How's everybody doing?
Not good. More are getting sick, and most of them are complaining about fatigue and muscle pain. Granted, they're wounded, so I don't know how much of that's related. I would like to think they're all going to make it as long as the Americans get here before the Russians, but I don't know.
You don't know what?
Stockton bit her lip and then said,
Scott's probably not going to be able to keep her legs. Martinez is going to have permanent bone damage. The guys with fevers have started to develop spots on their skin.
What do you mean spots?
Fever blisters? Little zit-looking bumps? It's not uncommon for their condition, but being in that condition in the first place is not a good thing.
Look after them as best as you can. If you and Christchurch need anything, let me know. We'll try to find it.
He looked over at Akan.
Do you want to go up to the roof with me?
Yeah.
Akan stood up.
We'll be back in a few.
Thatch told Stockton. When they got to the roof, they saw that the Marines across the colony were making some advances.
It looks like they're still pushing through the garrison.
Yeah. You got any smokes?
Yeah.
Akan unzipped the top of her suit and pulled out a pack of Luckies from between her breasts. She handed Thatch a cigarette and they both lit up. The tobacco hit them hard since neither of them had had a smoke in 2 days. They were lightheaded and almost felt like they were floating. Akan took in a deep drag.
I'm never taking a cigarette for granted again.
Yeah, I'm just glad the water's still pumping.
Akan looked at her cigarette.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, man. Whatever's in that basement, it's really fucking with my head.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be the Hebna. We're fucked if they deploy that.
Or if they can get that deployed on Mars.
Yep.
Akan shook her upper body, trying to force out the irk of the monster's image in her mind. She sucked down the rest of her cigarette and snuffed it under her boot. Thatch followed suit and they went back downstairs. When they got to the infirmary, the air was tense. Stockton, Christchurch, Capulet, and Chuck were holding down Martinez as he convulsed on the bed. He screamed, waving his limbs wildly.
Be careful with his ribs!
Christchurch was trying to hold down his shoulders.
What the fuck is wrong with him?
I don't fucking know!
Martinez's incoherent screams were interrupted by a violent bout of vomiting. He seized up, then fell back to the bed, limp. Then, his last breath escaped his lungs. The Marine stared at him silently for a moment, before Christchurch screamed.
Fuck!
And threw her helmet across the room.
What the fuck is happening to him?
I don't fucking know.
Franklin, Arco, and Scott are dead too.
Thatch and Akan looked to their beds. The Marines were covered with single sheets. Thatch took in a deep breath and rested his forehead in his palm.
God damn it.
I told you this was gonna happen.
Stockton!
Thatch screamed, losing control of his emotions.
Well, what the fuck do you suggest we do? You want to put him on litters and haul him through the entire fucking Russian army's defenses? If you got a suggestion for what we should do, I'm all fucking ears.
Thatch looked at the rest of the Marines.
If any of you have anything productive to say, let me fucking know. If not, shut the fuck up.
Stockton glared at Thatch. She felt even more helpless than him. Her job was to provide medical aid, and she couldn't even do that. She fought off hyperventilating and stared down at Martinez as Chuck and Capulet pulled the sheet over his body.
Well, what are we gonna do with them? We can't keep them here and live around them.
She forced herself to say.
It's a health hazard.
Thatch was too pissed off to speak.
Put them in the next room. Will that work?
Yeah.
Stockton motioned her head, and Capulet, Chuck, and Christchurch helped her push the beds to the second infirmary. Time passed quietly. The Marines didn't do anything besides sit in the hospital and wait. The colony's mirrors stayed offline. No sunlight was reflected in. It had almost been 2 days since Martinez, Franklin, Arco, and Scott had died. The Americans on the other side of the colony were making steady pace, but it was very slow. Chuck sat on top of the roof, staring up at the stars through Volgograd's ceiling, thinking about getting home. He wanted a drink and something to eat besides porridge, but the only thing he enjoyed about his situation was not shaving. It was supposed to be a quick in and out, so no one packed razors. His teeth were getting a bit nasty though. Chuck breathed in the fresh air, or at least it was the freshest that could be had under the circumstances. Chuck wished he had a cigarette. Even one would be nice. He put his fingers to his mouth and rolled through the motions, pretending the sweet taste of smoke filled his lungs. The imaginary fumes blew out his nose, and he flicked the imaginary cigarette over the edge of the building. Then he heard a patter. Something had hit the deck on the street below. He leaned his head over the ledge to find people moving around below. He squinted to make out their shapes in the dark. It was the Russians. Chuck counted about 20 of them before he decided that it might as well have been the entire army moving through. He was careful to keep his footsteps quiet as he bolted back down to the infirmary. Chuck scurried down the stairs and slid into the room with the other Marines.
Ivan's coming!
What? How many?
A fucking lot!
All right, everybody, dig in.
Thatch barked and made his way to the window. Looking down into the streets, he saw the Russians moving through the street. A few of them popped into the buildings around them.
Chuck, where was the line when you were up there?
We're making some pretty decent headway across the colony. It looks like they're almost through the garrison.
God damn
They're
it.
probably coming in to secure what's downstairs.
What's downstairs?
McKenzie asked from his bed. He propped himself up on the wall and pulled out his pistol.
The fucking bioweapon.
Why'd nobody tell me about that?
McKenzie stared at her with his mouth gaping open.
Don't worry about it.
Capulet huffed. Thatch looked at the Marines around the room. There weren't enough of them to fight the army that was coming through.
All right, guys, we're hiding for this one.
What?
Lighthouse asked.
There's too many of them, and fighting them is suicide. Our mission is to get this weapon back to American hands. We can't do that if we're dead. And they shouldn't be expecting anyone to get this far past their lines. Now go fucking hide under something.
They waited in their position behind desks, tables, and beds for what seemed like a decade. Then they heard the first thuds of Ivan's boots. The door on the far end of the infirmary slowly creaked open, and a fire team of Russian soldiers walked through the center of the room towards the far end. Thatch was under a bed with his pistol, ready to fire. He heard the soldiers mumbling.
No one is here.
Of course not. How could they be? This is just quick check.
Yeah, I would hate to have to clear this building.
The Russians quickly made their way out the opposite door. A few seconds after they were out of the room, the Marines heard a blood-curdling scream from where they went. That shot a look of confusion to Akon. They were hesitant for a moment, then got up to investigate. That signaled to the Marines to stay put. He unslung his rifle, and the two of them crept up to the Russians. When they pushed the door open, they were stricken with terror. The soldiers were on the ground, ripped to shreds in a pool of their own blood. Holding their severed limbs were Franklin, Martinez, Arco, and Scott. Stalks resembling splintered wood protruded from their bodies. Furry white mold covered their blue and green splotched skin. Orbed spores and mushrooms grew from their bodies. Their eyes were dead and shot. Blood flowed from what was left of their eyes, ears, and nose. The four of them pulled apart the mangled Russians' bodies and shoved the still pulsating flesh into their mouths. Akon was frozen with fear. Dread shook her body from her hair follicles to her toenails as she watched the four dead Marines cannibalize other human beings. She figured that she must have died and was in hell. Fire from outside the windows was the only light. Blood and death surrounded her. A blaring ring drowned out the sound of the world. Literal, physical demons with ugly, twisted bodies hunched in front of her, gnawing on their prey. Thatch wasn't in much better of a condition. He reached his hand out in front of Akon and started to slowly step back, keeping his weapon pointed at them. Akon forgot that the rest of the cosmos existed until the back of Thatch's forearm made contact with her chest on its way across her body to grab her opposing shoulder. She shook herself back into reality and backed up with him. Thatch took his arm off Akon and pushed the door behind them open. The hinges let out a long, rusty squeak. The former Marines in front of them ceased their feast and looked up at them. Thatch and Akon froze again. Arco let out a screech and hurled himself at the two. Thatch and Akon fired at him, splitting his body in half. Martinez, Franklin, and Scott jumped up and slashed and screamed at Thatch and Akon. Thatch split Scott's head open with a bullet and beat Franklin's face in with his buttstock. Akon pushed her muzzle in Martinez's gaping mouth and let out a 3-round burst.
What the fuck?
Chuck slid into the doorway with Capulet in tow. Akon was shaken from what had just happened and couldn't manage much more than a mumbling.
Damn it, god damn it, god damn it, god damn it, god damn it.
Arco, Franklin, Scott, and Martinez laid in heaps on the floor next to the Russians. The spores on their body popped, releasing a haze of white dust into the air. The mold on their skin crawled off of them and bonded itself to the dead Russians on the floor. The door on the other end of the infirmary blew open and a squad of Russian soldiers came screaming in. Before a shot could be fired, Thatch put his arms in the air and screamed at them to stop in Russian.
Остановиться!
The Russians were confused by Thatch's tactic. They glared at him wide-eyed, but kept their weapons aimed in on the Marines, demanding an explanation. Thatch kept his arms up and pointed with his hand towards the monstrous pile of death just in the other room. One of the soldiers motioned that the Marines line up on the wall.
Line up over there, Marines.
When the Marines were by the window, the Russians kept watch over them with their rifles ready to fire. Their sergeant went to investigate the next room. When he saw what was on the floor, he quivered and bent over to vomit. One of the dead Russian soldiers sprung back to life, reanimated by the mold, and shoved his mushroom-covered stalks down the puking sergeant's throat. One of the other Russians from the squad watched in terror and screamed. He shot at the moving corpse, but it was too late. The sergeant was already infected and convulsing on the floor. The rest of the squad turned to fire, but the dead, both Russians and the Americans, were rushing toward them. Thatch saw an opportunity, and while the Russians were distracted, raised his rifle and fired into the squad. The rest of the Marines followed suit. The Russians fired back, and monsters were indiscriminate. Half of Martinez's head was blown away, but the cavity was replaced by the wood-like stalks and mushrooms, as were the fingers on one of his hands. He slashed at one of the Russians, spilling his guts onto the ground. Schneider, Thatcher, Benjamin, and Pats were all shot and killed, along with most of the Russians in the exchange. Worrell took a bullet to the gut, and Hans to the arm. The surviving Russian shot, stabbed, and bludgeoned the undead. Thatch screamed.
Let's get the fuck out of here!
He grabbed McKenzie by the arm and threw him over his shoulders. Capulet and Lighthouse grabbed Royal, and the Marines moved as quickly as they could out of the infirmary. The Russians screamed as they were ripped apart. Stockton and Khan looked back as they left the room. They were frozen in time, paralyzed with fear. The furry fungus spread over the deceased and reanimated them in a matter of seconds. Chuck leaned back in and pulled the two of them through the door. Vickers and Christchurch led the way down, trotting through the halls. They ran across a couple of soldiers and put bullets into them before they had time to react. Hustling down the stairwell, they halted.
What's going on?
Capulet demanded.
I smell a fire!
Vickers replied.
So, we need to get out of here.
Vickers kicked the door to the reception area open. Smoke blew in her face, and flames illuminated the ladder well. The room was burning, and there wasn't a way to get through.
Fuck!
Pop! 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 3 grenades went off at the bottom of the stairwell, followed immediately by a hail of rifle fire from above. Vickers lay screaming on the deck. Shrapnel shredded her skin. Capulet's back was peppered, but nothing vital was hit. His pack took the brunt of the blast. Thatch took some metal to the arm, but was shielded by Mackenzie's legs and hind. Mackenzie let out a howl. Thatch screamed, and without dropping Mackenzie, turned back and returned fire. He let out 6 shots and yelled.
Get through the fire!
The Marines scurried out of the stairwell and into the building reception area. Akan was the last man out. She jumped over the railing at the bottom of the stairs and lunged for the door. She slipped on Vickers' blood and stumbled into the room, accidentally shouldering Stockton onto a burning desk. Stockton screamed as her left arm engulfed in flames. She pushed herself back up as Thatch yanked her collar from behind.
You alright?
Stockton watched as her bubbling skin melted to her suit. She was in so much shock that she didn't feel it.
Stockton!
Thatch yelled. She didn't reply. He grabbed her good arm and pulled her towards the far end of the building with Mackenzie still on his back. Chuck grabbed Stockton's legs and helped her along. The door was sealed shut. Lighthouse tried to force his way through, to no avail. Capulet fired a few rounds through the window and broke the rest out with a metal chair. The steel heated his hands, but his gloves bore most of the brunt. When it was clear, he grabbed all 6 feet of Vickers by the waist and chucked her outside. Then ordered the Marines who could move on their own to follow suit. When Capulet was through, Thatch tossed to Mackenzie, then Stockton. Then he, Chuck, and Khan scrambled out the window. They didn't take the time to watch the hospital burn. They loaded into the first truck they saw and hauled ass deeper into Volgograd.
Oh, God damn it, 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 God damn it.
Hey everybody. Oh shit, my hair looks, whatever, I can take a shower. I'm greasy, I'm sorry. Spent all morning packing, which was a good thing, you know, fucking getting some war chests and some art out. Spent $400 at the fucking post office this morning. I'm not happy about that. I mean, I am, because, you know, money, do you mind? But I had a busy weekend. I guess everybody got their tax returns back. But I sent out a couple war chests, a war crate, and that's the big guy. And when you get a war chest or the war chest Mark II or the war crate, your name does go into the credits at the end of this. I also sent out some patches because I got the new patches for the box, you know, because the old ones, we ran up to 150 on the war chest with these, and we're out. And for the foreseeable future, the war chests will be getting this patch. The war chest Mark II still gets that lip one. War crate's got both of them in there. But yeah, I sent out some art because I'm having an art sale on my site right now to, you know, just to help bring in some funds. I'm not saying all the good ones have gone out the door already. There's still some cool shit there. But the fat electrician did buy that fucking portrait I made of him. So there's today's bragging rights. Anyway, what I meant to say about these patches, I put a few of these on the site that you can just get these by themselves. But then, like, once those are gone, if you want one, you'll have to get it in the war chest. So, you know, grab those while they're there. I think I got them listed for $10, and that includes shipping and all that. So, boom. Oh, man, what am I talking about? Anyway, thank you, War Chest people, again. And also thank you, YouTube channel members who get these videos once I upload them. And then thank you, Patreon people who get these chapters once I get done with them. And I'm going to start working on chapter 4 of book 6 later today. Today's Monday. And we've still got, what, I think 2 or 3 chapters after this. I think 2 chapters of book 4 after this one, if I remember right. So we're good and ahead over on Patreon, which... Woo. Anyway, on my site, I'm going to keep running that art sale to try to, you know, offload some stuff. I got a lot of shit marked down pretty far. I'm going to keep running that probably until Monday, so a week from today. But if you're watching this on Wednesday, then that gives you some time to go grab something. Because, you know, I just started it, you know, on Friday and just told fucking Instagram and I think TikTok. But I want to give you guys some time too, in case you wanted anything. Anyway, thank you again for tuning in. I want to go ahead and get this video cut and throw it up on the internet. Should we have a celebration for this whole book getting up in a couple weeks? Like, should we do something for that? You got any suggestions for something we could do? Let me know. I still got to organize the live streams. I'll be doing live streams with the voice actors and actresses in the week or two after the last chapter comes up before we start, you know, pushing up book 5. So stay tuned around for that. All right, I think I've done enough blabbling. Blabbling? All right, I'll catch you on the flip side. Here are your blippers. Ciao.
All right. Test.
Let's do another sound chuck.
I'm never taking a cigarette for granted again. No, not that again. No.
Or will this sound chuck 2 be chucked in the sound chuck bucket of sound fucks? Fuck.
Scully, sit down. Good girl.
We're making this...
I fucking can't say that word and I misread the sentence anyway. Jesus H. Christ.
Okay, Trip. This is going to be chapters 37 and 38 together in one because they're both short. So just be smart enough to know where to split that. And I know you are. You know, the only real reason I'm talking to you right now is because I see you have me screaming twice in this chapter. So, fuck you. Very unkindly and aggressively.
Oh yeah, I was killing that whole fucking page. I went like literally like pages without a mistake, and I couldn't say the word shifts. Oh my god, what the fuck? Why is that one of those words? Shifts. Shifty, shifts. All right.
I have no idea. I swear to fucking Christ.
He told Capulet, the senior man on watch, to go to sleep. Fuck!
Get on the couch and shut up.
Both their shifts.
Chapter 37 is not dig through the ditches. No, it's burn through the ditches. But we're still going to slam in the back of a fucking Dragula, man. Dragula.
Stockton breaks bad news to a pissed off, traumatized sergeant. Motherfucker. Simplify.
We're making some pretty decent headway across the colony. It looks like they're almost through the gate. Goddamn.
Scrolling. Little high.
Chuck, Thatch, Lighthouse, Thatch, Capulet. Hey, that's me.
He screamed, waving his whim. Waving of widow whims. Martinez is waving his widow whims wildly. Woo. Fuck.
Okay. Try take 2 now.
He screamed, waving his limbs wildly. Did I say laving?
You think they're doing that because there's more Russian resistance than anticipated? You think I could nail a fucking line right and, read things correctly out of my mouth?
Ding, 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 ding! We got zombies on the board!
McKenzie, what's downstairs? Stockton. The fucking bioweapon.
Dread shook her body from her hair follicles to her toenails. I almost said fucking tonsils. I was doing so well!
Yeah, I would hate to have to clear this building. I will do this again because I sucked at that one.
What if shutting it down sets it up?
The dog just came from me fucking screaming that shit. Good girl.
That split Scott's head open with a bullet and beat Franklin's face in with his I didn't scroll down, so I'll never know.
Thatch, probably. Capulet. Shit, that's me.
By the walls! Till spores drip down my balls. Contaminated semen crawls. Literally, it does. Across the... I've seen the thing!
Roger.
The furry fungus fingers. There's a fungus among us!
Roger here.
Alright, that was a pretty fucking good read, if I do say so myself.
And now I present to you the Song of the Ivans. Oh, I am Ivan, you are Ivan, we are Ivans 3. We're guarding our space stations from United Space Marines. Hey, we are practical, we're tactical, there's vodka on our breath. And if we find those Space Marines, we vow to give them death. Hey, sing it with me, Ivans. Ivan? There's only 2 of us Ivans here, though. I'm an Ivan. I am Ivan, you are Ivans, we are Ivans 3. You are both still Russian, I'm a living mushroom tree. Hey, Space Marines, they come for me, but I will give them hell. And now that they see me, not so can you tell. Thank you for your quick death, and now you're on my side. Everything that's living must surely fucking die, hey!